Good morning, everyone. Pete Pardo here from Sea of Tranquility. Welcome to another edition of Favorite Album of the Year, and a happy Memorial Day weekend to all of my friends listening and watching here in the U.S. It's a time to just kind of sit back, relax, reflect, spend time with friends or family, although I know that's kind of difficult in these times right now, but to the best extent that you could possibly do that during coronavirus. Hope everybody has a wonderful little long weekend before you go back to work on Tuesday. We are at 1992. Interesting year. Interesting year for me. Normally when I go through and I get ready to do each of these daily shows, I take a look at all of the releases that came out during the year, and usually I amass like a big long list and I start to kind of whittle it down. Not so many this year for me. A lot of very decent albums, not a lot of truly elite albums in my opinion. One clear winner, I always knew when 1992 was going to come up, I always knew what my one winner was going to be. Runner-up, kind of close. I'm going to give some love to a runner-up and a co-runner-up today. But there are other releases that are, very strong too. But again, remember, this is all about our own personal favorites. So the three that I'm going to talk about, I have a deep emotional tie to. And let's start with the first one. So the first one is a highly influential album. My favorite pick. I remember when this came out, I was already exposed to the band from their first album, and I dug that, pretty much. But nothing kind of prepared me for the greatness that this follow-up album contained. And it's still probably one of the most cited favorite progressive metal albums of all time. Definitely influenced a ton of bands in their wake, right? You can say what you want about where the roots of progressive metal truly lie, right? You can go back to Queensryche and Fate's Warning in the 80s, Rush and Rainbow in the 70s, what have you. But I think for all those very good to great progressive metal bands that popped up from all over the planet throughout the 90s and then up to this present day, you have to give credit to kind of where that all started. Released July 7th, 1992, produced by David Prater for Atco Records. We're talking about Images and Words from Dream Theater. I mean, this changed my world, this album here. At the time, I was moving away from a lot of the metal in the 80s because a lot of those bands were either going by the wayside or just succumbing to the growing grunge and alternative movement that was happening, that started off right at the beginning of the decade. And I had to latch on to something else. So I started to really latch on to progressive bands, but I still was a metalhead at heart. And this album kind of helped me in both ways, right? It really helped satisfy my metal cravings, yet my growing love for progressive music, progressive bands, whether they be the newer ones that are coming up or the classic ones, because I think at this time I started listening to way more Genesis, Yes, Jethro Tull, Emerson, Lake and Palmer, King Crimson, so on and so forth, that I had never listened to before. And I listened to those bands, quite a bit, up to that point. But I went all in. Rush, all these bands. I went all in throughout much of that decade, to the point where if it wasn't progressive metal, I probably wasn't listening to metal much until later in the decade. Other than like the old standbys, which brings me to my runner-up, Dehumanize by Black Sabbath. Again, I always loved Ronnie James Dio, loved him in this band, and when they got back together, I was absolutely super stoked. This album is heavy as all hell, but then you blinked and that was it. That was it. So, but a fantastic album. Let's get back to my pick here. They're probably their most popular song, Pull Me Under. Great tune. I've heard it too many times, but a great tune. The rest of the album, though, still is really, really fresh for me. Another Day, really nice melodic song. It's got that great Jay Beckenstein sax solo in the middle. Jay, of course, from Spyro Gyra. Okay, you got Take the Time. Excellent, excellent, bright, punchy, complex metal song. Surrounded. Okay, gorgeous tune. Metropolis Part 1, legendary. Helped spawn a complete album, concept album, right? Under a Glass Moon, sick guitar solo and keyboard solo from Kevin Moore and John Petrucci in that. Wait for Sleep, another gorgeous tune. One of my favorite vocal performances from James LaBrie. This happens to be his first album with the band. And then Learning to Live, the epic that closes out the album. That's a favorite Dream Theater song of mine. So, just fantastic stuff. As is my runner-up, Dehumanizer, easily the heaviest album that Ronnie James Dio and Vinny Appice did with the band. I do want to give some love to another album, which I felt really bad about not including here because it just meant so much to me. I listened to this so much when it came out. I still love it to this day, and I think it's one of their underrated gems in their catalog. I'm talking Kingdom of Desire by Toto. Of course, released. Jeff Porcaro passes away. They had this album basically all done, and before you know it, he's gone. A fantastic, definitely Toto's hardest rocking album. Basically, here you have Steve Lukather at the forefront, okay, doing most of the singing, a lot of the songwriting. It's a very guitar-heavy album, all sorts of great songs. I think if you've always kind of appreciated Toto, but you kind of feel they're too poppy for you, definitely check out the Kingdom of Desire album. A lot of great heavy rockers on here, some blistering jazz fusion, great playing, just a fantastic album. Just great stuff. Great stuff. And yeah, Jeff Porcaro. What a lot. I mean, all those Porcaro brothers that we lost. Just sad when really great musicians, leave us, right? But anyway, there you have it, okay? In under 7 minutes, too. This is on the web at www.seatranquility.org. We're on Facebook, we're on Twitter, of course, we're here on YouTube all the damn time. I am trying desperately to bring you my favorite vocalist show that I've been talking about for a couple of weeks. My problem is my list is absolutely enormous, and I am having a real hard time paring it down. And every time I think more about it, there are more singers that I know I'm forgetting on this list. So I don't know whether it's just going to be a rambling show of me just mentioning as many of my favorite singers as I possibly can, or if I'm going to kind of do it in a couple segments, like metal singers, classic rock singers. Right? I don't know how I'm going to do it yet, or whether I just list off 50 of them and just talk about them and have fun with it. I don't know. I haven't figured it out yet. It's funny how I thought like my favorite guitar player show would be a little more difficult. And yet this was just absolutely impossible. It's just I've been working on the list for weeks, and it's just the list keeps getting longer, and I'm like, I'll take this one out, and then I put 4 more back in. It's like it's driving me crazy. But I know it's going to be fun when I get to it. So hopefully today or tomorrow we'll get that one out for you. Tomorrow, 1993. Stay tuned. Visit us on the web at www.seatranquility.org. We're on Facebook. We're on Twitter. Of course, we're here on the mighty YouTube all the damn time. We'll see you guys later on. All right, have a good day. Take care. Bye-bye.